The sun was merciless that afternoon, its golden glare spilling across the crowded beach. Families laughed, waves danced, and the air was thick with sunscreen and salt. I had come there to escape work, to escape her. My boss, Emma Hartley. The woman who somehow managed to be both the reason I worked harder and the reason I couldn't sleep at night. She was sharp, confident, and completely out of my league. But of all the places in the world, fate decided to play a cruel joke. Because when I turned my head from my beach chair, there she was, walking barefoot on the sand, her hair undone, sunlight kissing her skin. And then, she caught me looking exactly where I shouldn't have been, her sunglasses lifted just slightly, revealing those piercing hazel eyes that could freeze a boardroom full of executives. My heart stopped. I knew that look. The same one she gave when a presentation went wrong, only this time, I was the one caught off guard. And that was the beginning of a day I would never forget. I hadn't planned on seeing anyone from the office. It was my first real day off in months. I'd been working late nights, picking up extra projects just to prove I wasn't just another junior analyst. Emma, Miss Hartley, as I called her, was known for expecting nothing short of perfection. She wasn't cruel, just intimidatingly composed. The kind of woman who made you want to do better simply because her approval felt like validation itself. But here, on the beach, she wasn't the CEO. She wasn't the woman behind that sleek desk. She was barefoot, laughing with a friend, her professional armor completely gone. I should have looked away. I really should have. But my eyes lingered just a second too long. And when her gaze met mine, everything around me seemed to fade. She started walking toward me. Every step made my pulse spike. By the time she stood in front of me, I could barely breathe. "Mr. Hale," she said, voice calm but edged with surprise. "Didn't expect to see you here." "Neither did I, Miss Hartley." My throat was dry. I prayed she couldn't see my panic. Her lips curved slightly. "You're not at work. You can call me Emma." I nodded awkwardly. "Right. Emma." The way her name felt on my tongue, it was dangerous. It made her seem human. We stood there for a few seconds, the waves filling the silence between us. Then, she tilted her head, that faint smirk never leaving her lips. "You were staring." My heart sank. I wanted to melt into the sand. I wasn't, she raised an eyebrow, amused. "Relax, I'm not firing you. I just didn't think I'd see that expression on your face outside a meeting." That was the first time I ever heard her laugh. Not polite. Not professional. Just real. And it did something to me. We ended up talking. Somehow. About nothing serious, weather, vacations, how strange it was to see each other outside the office. She told me she rarely took time off, that the beach was her accidental escape. For a woman who always seemed in control, she looked oddly free that day. Hours passed like minutes. The sun dipped low, painting the ocean gold. When she finally stood to leave, she looked back and said softly, "You're not as quiet as you pretend to be, you know." That night, I couldn't sleep. The next morning, I walked into the office trying to pretend nothing happened. But when I stepped into the elevator, she was already there. Emma, back in her element, the CEO mask firmly in place. Our eyes met briefly, and for a second, I thought she might ignore me. But then she spoke, quietly, "Good morning, Mr. Hale." "Good morning, Miss Hartley." The smallest smile tugged at her lips. "Still pretending we didn't run into each other yesterday?" "I thought it might be safer that way," I admitted, trying to hide my grin. She chuckled softly, barely audible. "Smart man." Work went on as usual, except, it didn't feel usual anymore. There was something different in the air. Every time she passed by my desk, my heart betrayed me. Every time she called my name in a meeting, her voice lingered a little longer than necessary. Maybe it was my imagination. Maybe it wasn't. Weeks went by. Then, one night, I stayed late finishing a report. Everyone had gone home except me and her. I didn't notice she was still there until I heard her footsteps behind me. "You really don't stop, do you?" she said, standing by my desk. "I could say the same about you," I replied, smiling. She leaned against the table, eyes soft but searching. "You work like someone trying to prove something." "I guess I am." "To whom?" I hesitated. Maybe, to you. She looked away, a faint sadness flickering across her face. You don't have to. The air between us thickened. There was no beach, no laughter, just the quiet hum of the city lights beyond the glass. For the first time, she seemed unsure of herself. I saw you at the beach, she said finally, her voice low. And for a moment, I wasn't your boss. I was just someone who wanted to forget who she was. I stepped closer, the distance between us shrinking. Then maybe we both needed that moment. Her eyes met mine again, and I saw something there, vulnerability, maybe even longing. But she took a small breath, straightened up, and whispered, "Moment's end, Mr. Hale. Don't forget that." She walked away before I could say a word. A few days later, she called me into her office. My heart raced, expecting tension. But instead, she handed me an envelope. "You're being promoted," she said, smiling. "You've earned it." I tried to thank her, but she shook her head gently. "No need. Just keep working hard. And maybe," she paused, that teasing glint returning to her eyes, "next time we meet outside work, you'll look at me for the right reasons." That line stayed with me. Because the truth was, I had been looking in the wrong place, at her beauty, her mystery. But what I should have seen was her humanity, her struggle to balance power with loneliness, strength with tenderness, and maybe that's what she saw in me too. Not an employee. Not a mistake. But someone who finally understood her, even if we could never say it out loud. Weeks later, I found myself back at the same beach, the sky burning orange above the water. And though she wasn't there, I caught myself smiling. Because some encounters don't need an ending. They just need to change you enough to start something new. And that day, when my boss caught me looking in the wrong place, turned out to be the moment that made me see everything right.